we go. All right. Woo! Welcome, everyone, to This Week in Hospitality Digital Marketing. Actually, we're changing it. You see the sign behind me? I actually took digital off. I said This Week in Hospitality Marketing.
A new sign.
Yeah, I know, right? Woo! Kind of hung it up. I actually brought it to the conference as the table hang actually behind the show. So I figured, it's kind of obvious, that digital is a component of marketing, and we talk more about marketing in general. So slowly but surely, I'm going to change over the titling of the show to This Week in Hospitality Marketing. But right now, it's still This Week in Hospitality Digital Marketing, live show number 182. Maybe we'll do it on our 200th anniversary, or 200th show, or our 4-year anniversary, or whatever.
Still think we need to reach out to see if someone wants to sponsor a special episode for the 200th.
Buy us a good bottle of scotch or something. That'd be kind of fun to think.
And we'll drink it on air.
We'll drink it on air. We'll do what Stuart does on his podcast with the beer. We'll drink and talk at the same time, kind of thing. But Mr. Edward StOnge, how are you, sir?
I'm wonderful, thank you. I avoided the polar vortex, which is quite nice. Yep. So that's nice. It's getting warmer in Orlando, so I will be able to take my jacket off at some point.
I've been shorts and shirt today myself. It was we finally had to close the windows up. It's been beautifully temperatured for the past week. I mean, a little cool in the evenings, granted, but it's been really nice in Southwest Florida. But now today we're up in the 80s. So it's time to turn the air back on. Damn it. I'm going to get our Facebook Live for this. Hey, so you saw Robert's list on stuff.
I did. His stuff list.
His stuff list. I was reviewing the Cindy Estes Green article with Skift on the latest rendition of the loyalty value proposition that the brands went for now 2 years ago. And I have some interesting opinions about that, to be honest with you. I see some of the merit of what they're saying, but I also discount some of the... Mr. Robert Cole!
Why, Mr. Gray, how are you?
We were just talking about you in vain. Were your ears burning?
Of course, the social alert started going off. So.
Yes, someone is talking about you.
There. That's right.
Yeah, but no, we're talking about your first major article of the wonderfully curated list that you provide each week. Although you failed last week, but we're not holding it against you. Somebody your anniversary.
Now, Lauren, you realize, we had the discussion that I was so inspired being in New York that, my recommendation that we theme every show after a Broadway musical and that we perform each of these stories. You didn't want to do My Fair Lady last week. So.
Only because I can't play the leading role. I mean,
I did. I was surprised no one wanted to take me up on doing Book of Mormon.
Actually, that could be a lot of fun.
There's a whole musical number about Orlando.
There is. I have not seen Book of Mormon.
You haven't? Oh,
I haven't. I very much tried to see Book of Mormon many times, but
yeah, we've seen it 4 or 5 times. It's
oh wow.
Yeah, it's really good.
That's great.
Yeah.
We did see My Fair Lady, which was great.
Yeah.
It is a.
You didn't go see King Kong the musical? I figured that would have been high on the list for you.
The reviews of King Kong were interesting. The puppet, from a technical perspective, got tremendous reviews.
Reviews. Everything else was horrible.
The plot, the acting, the score. It's a musical, we discovered.
Right.
Yeah, was not so good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
but
it's
it had
true.
a good monkey puppet.
Yes.
So,
yeah, very impressive.
And speaking of monkey puppets, here comes Stuart.
Perfect segue.
Because he probably couldn't hear that.
From the moment he walks in, he's getting beaten up.
Hey, I've been called worse, I'll be honest.
Oh, he heard that. Okay.
He doesn't even have a moment to sit down, and he's already on the defensive with, what the hell is this?
I don't know.
They did the same to me, Stuart. So, anyway.
That's fine. That's fine. I kind of like that nickname. That was a username I used to use a lot, was Monkey Boy.
Monkey Boy.
That was my nickname in school, was Monkey Boy. So
really?
I don't know why.
Wow.
Yeah.
Were you athletically talented and all that? And
you guys have spent time with Stuart in person. His arms are abnormally long compared to the rest of his body. So.
Yeah, that's right. I have a long tail that can grip things and
climb up trees.
Prehensile tail.
Yeah.
Vestigial tail. Yeah, that's that.
All right. Well, meanwhile, we were ready to dive into your lead article, Mr. Robert, of the
please
loyalty
dive in.
value proposition program. they skipped over featuring Cindy Estes Green once again with Calibri Labs, featuring that their research was sound and valuable and well documented as to the authenticity of the value of loyalty programs that the brands pushed out there because of the resurgence of bookings and direct channel growth and all the other stuff.
A fraction of a percent is
substantial.
Is an improvement. I mean, however, reports like this always cement my feeling that I don't like reports. I prefer to look at raw data.
Yeah, me too.
And in reading this report, I see that they are using data to show that there was a success. I think the level of that success versus the spend, I'd be interested in looking at that raw data, and I'd be interested in looking at a control group to see how much of this shift was driven by the effort.
Agree. Yeah, that was my question. There's no causation link here, right? There's a correlation, maybe, but because there wasn't a control group, you have no way of knowing if this is just a consumer shift, and to your point, Ed, where's the ROI on it? Where's the actual numbers that really matter?
Well,
that wasn't in there.
Yeah, and I think it speaks to a number of things. Of course, direct bookings would always be a more efficient route and more profitable than intermediary bookings. Otherwise, intermediaries wouldn't exist, pretty much.
And I'm really interested in
there needs to be some sort of margin in there for the intermediary.
What was the increase in the AAA and AARP rate? Because as we've discussed multiple times, these best rate booking direct campaigns are really easy to see that they're kind of not the best rate, because as soon as you expand the rate structure, their AARP and AAA rates are better than the rate they're offering for
sometimes I feel like the big boys have gotten better at that. Like Marriott for sure now, the only way to get the cheapest rate is through the membership. I haven't found one where the AAA rate's lower recently.
Hilton in New York, as recently as last week, AAA rates were markedly better than the member rate, which is a little disconcerting when you are a member and you look at it and you go, why is it $15 less to go for AAA, which is obviously a very low fence. And again, no one checks your AAA card when you check in, right? Or anything like that.
And even if they did and you said, I forgot it, I left it at home, they're not going to
they don't have any validation.
Change the rate on you. Right. They're not going to change the rate on you at that point.
Nope. Very true. Very true. Yeah. Actually, interesting bring up just the whole New York conversation with this is that numbers are beginning to come in on the shutdown impact on some things, I think. Just overall from working with clients in New York, the entire market was down 11.5%. For the tier that I work with, I'm sure there's other numbers for other tiers, but it was down 11.5% overall. ADR was down.
All of January? Is that what?
Yeah, January. Yeah.
Okay. Well, the weather probably had an impact too.
The weather cycles was also. Yep. And the ADR was down to the comp sets that we're looking at as well. They had a push down for that, and again in some other markets too. There was a lower demand cycle compared to year over year. Granted, weather is definitely one of the influencing factors to that, depending upon the markets. But even down here in warm Florida, it didn't increase that you would think there wouldn't be the increased push that you would get because of the bad weather in January where people were trying to escape. Now, that being said, there's actually definitely an increase in demand for March. There's a higher push in March right now that's coming up. There's already some earlier bookings to pace.
Yeah, CVent just came out with some stats this last week. I didn't include it in, here that says that group booking forecasts are actually down, so that they are seeing softness in the group market. So again, I'm not exactly sure if that's due to the government shutdown or caution, corporate caution or things like that. But it's again, when you're at the top of a cycle sort of thing and everything's going pretty well, little things that go wrong can wind up, if you don't have something to counter, we're going to go back up. That's tough.
Right, and you're also going to look critically at every slight blip as, is this the start of the down, or is it literally just a blip.
Well, and going through the news, I mean, Hotel News Now had a bunch of editorials and things like that this week, which were people saying, "Here's what to do in a downturn." Sort of.
They had
thing.
an amazing Hotel News Now had an amazing recap about a presentation regarding influencer marketing that I saw.
Yeah, I thought you guys spoke about that last week. Yeah, Sean McCracken.
I wasn't here.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we talked about
it. Yeah, front row seat for it. So
Robert breaks all the rules in terms of presenting. Like every slide has tiny font and thousands of words.
Yeah, Robert.
Like every rule is broken, but somehow it works. Somehow
that surprises me because Robert is usually so brief in his points that he makes.
I know, right? He's like straight to the point and on to the next.
Yeah.
But no, he
break all the rules. But I do say up front, you don't have to take a lot. You can download this afterwards.
Yeah, that's true.
But listen, here's all the stuff for the context. So yeah. So I just like, if there's in a lot of these cases, you get these presentations and there's a picture and it's just some sort of word that's it's like a header that says
right. It's a prompt.
Higher
right?
rates are better or something like that.
It's a prompt for the speaker to remember what they need to say at that point. It's more like a cue card than anything else.
Right. Yeah. Stuart's so used to seeing my presentations, which are just random pictures, and I'm like,
sometimes just animated GIFs are on his presentation. We were at a panel at the OPMA conference, and we were talking about mobile and voice, and one of the slides literally was the loading icon that comes up, like the little spinning wheel, and it made it look like the slide was not loading. So you kind of sat there and paused for a while, and then he's like, "Oh, by the way, this isn't broken."
You saw the leadership.
It's frustrating.
The leadership of OPMA text messaging the girl who was running the AV, like, "What's going on? Why isn't that slide loading?"
This is an actual user experience on some of your websites.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, it illustrates the point, right? That you don't want friction in any kind of process, and even in a presentation, it's frustrating. So it worked really well. Yeah, but with the first time I caught the slide deck before the presentation, I was like, it caught me off guard for a second. It took me a while to realize it was intentional.
Yeah.
Evil.
Well, it wasn't, but Ed has retrofitted the story so effectively. It's good. So it works, right?
Right. The key to sales, roll with whatever's happening.
That's right.
Hey,
exactly.
Quick question, something that I've been focusing on, and I'm doing a technique, and I'd love to get you guys' feedback because I'm just getting some numbers in now. We just started it a week ago, so I don't have real good numbers to actually refer to yet. But we were looking at cancellation percentages, and we're looking at cancellation pace. And what we were trying to determine was either days. In New York, there's a very high cancellation rate on every platform in every capacity. And what brought our attention to it in January was abnormally high. Now, obviously, things like shutdown and weather and things are going to have those impacts. So we started trying to find out what's the gap point. What is the average gap point between either booking to cancellation or cancellation prior to arrival? And we tried to find the sweet spot of days. And what we did was we changed our pre-arrival letter for all the channels. We made another one, and we put it in that sweet spot. And we're offering a gift at the front door when they arrive. We have two gifts. One is it's a little amenities pack for the room themselves, and the other is we're giving them a Starbucks card of $10 for them when they leave, when they go to the airport or whatever they're doing to get coffee when they leave. But they, of course, have to get it at the front desk. We're not sending it to them as a sent, but we're just reminding them in the pre-arrival letter that we have a thank you for having chosen us. We look forward to your arrival, and we have this thing at the desk. This is the first week it's rolling in. I'm wondering, you guys decide, is this like a crazy weird idea, or do you think
this is a little carrot to try to incentivize them to not cancel? Is that the philosophy?
Yeah, making us different than the three other people that they booked that they're looking to cancel. Is it just a little? Hey, when you get here, we're going to give you something for having stuck with us.
So, have you ever done any outbound calling to the guests that do cancel and ask them why?
No, I haven't. I wanted to do research on the back end of it on the cancellation.
Because now, are these direct cancellations or intermediary cancellations?
Say that again, Robert. I'm sorry.
Are they direct or intermediary? I mean,
both. We're using the bogus emails that we're getting from OTAs as well and sending this to them as well.
Yeah.
Aliased email addresses.
I can say that it was probably me. No, no. For my trip to New York, I think I canceled 5 bookings because again, I use that HSMAI meeting it's the petri dish, right? To go see what's going on, who's managing what rates, and it was stupid. Last week was just flat out stupid. I mean, there are some hotels which will go, in this case, I'll go unnamed, that was down to $55 a night, right? Sizable hotel, but 4-star hotel. I mean, we wound up staying at the Sanctuary and the Royalton. Sanctuary, great. Royalton, Highgate, come on, you can do better than that sort of thing. But the both of them under $150 a night. I think they're 130, 130s or something like that. New York Hilton or New York Hilton Times Square at one point was down to 118. Lower, $20 a night lower than the Hilton Garden Inn. I mean, we're talking just crazy stuff.
Wow.
Right? And so I just decided I'm going to play with it, right? I'm going to go on Booking.com. I'm going to cancel, or, it's going to be, now my selection criteria winds up being no prepayment required, free cancellation, and just see what's bubbling around there. And I just played around with those. So I was actually on Hilton, went for the AAA rates, right? Which I think actually at one point put me at like 96 or something for one thing at the New York Hilton Times Square. And I actually wound up canceling that because the lowest price wasn't the deal. What's the best value? I stayed at the Sanctuary for $30 more a night.
I think the New York Hilton Times Square is a Highgate as well.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, Highgate has always kind of run their revenue management, and KJ certainly knows what he's doing, and the guys.
He's not running that anymore.
Oh no, I know, but he
runs ventures.
Right, but he set the tone. It was his strategy that they're still employing, is kind of to run these things full. Right?
Yeah.
And it gives you more opportunity to get total take, which is fine. It drives everybody else crazy. But and that's fine with me if those numbers work for them and optimize their revenues.
Well, they have such mass in that area. I mean, they manage the majority of the rooms in that area. Yeah.
But the Royalton in terms of the service was hotel was fine. Certainly not the glory days of the Schrager years and the Mortgage Hotel Group years, where it was very, very cool. But it was fine. Everything.
It's amazing how well you can run a hotel when you're not paying your taxes.
That was Studio 54. Ian was never. That was Mr. Rubel. That was
Steve. That's true.
Yeah. So. But anyway, the service was basically pretty much indifferent, which was not. I mean, that's the worst thing. That is one of the worst sins of hoteliers, is just an indifferent staff, right? Who are more geared into their jobs than the guest. Sanctuary, exact opposite. Absolutely did a great job.
So you were saying that was a sanctuary for you.
Yes, it was. It was quite nice. The room, yes. Well, actually, the one thing, we left my daughter's makeup brushes in the room. This is
on purpose.
Yeah, my daughter's.
No.
Yeah, my daughter's.
Well,
yeah.
Okay. Well, they're hers.
They have
we share.
Rock Cheetah written on the side of them.
Yeah.
For a 21-year-old
property of Cole.
A 21-year-old daughter, and I'm saying this because she's out of the country. What can she do?
Right.
But anyway, that's a big deal. We didn't realize it until really the next day, right? The next morning, where things had gotten packed up, and so all of a sudden it was like, oh my God, those guys were on it. Said, we won't make you hold on the phone. I will check with housekeeping. Here's my name. I will give you a call back. They found everything completely smooth. It was great. So, yeah, and the whole thing.
They mailed it to you free of charge.
No, we were actually in town.
Are you still there?
We decided to split the Sanctuary with the Royalton, just for give my daughter some perspective on different hotels, and the rates turned out that way because, again, I'm sorry guys, revenue management, you have to look at full lengths of stay, and when you start jacking up one rate and doing some very weird, what you think are very opportunistic to maximize your rates, not necessarily.
So you're recommending, Stuart, that other than what I just said we're trying to do, that we should try to segment out people that have canceled and do sample study as to what their
just find out, right? Is it because they're people like Robert that are gaming the system? Is it that something's happening, the circumstance that's preventing them from travel? Because if you find out the majority of it is opportunistic people, then that kind of carrot might have an impact. But if it's majority of people are canceling for a tangible reason outside of their control, that your strategy is not going to work. The other thing I would say, Lauren, this is something we've done with a few clients that were having large cancellation issues, is prepaid stays at a discount, and it could be 10-15% lower, but they pay at booking. That's been really, really effective for a lot of our clients. Obviously, reducing cancellation rate and no-show rate, but obviously you got to look at the profitability there. But we're doing another study right now, which is really interesting. We have one client that tried $1 deposit, because usually in the destinations that a lot of our clients are in, it's usually first night room stay as a deposit, something like that. But they did a special to their guest history, a $1 deposit. For spring stay, so it's outside of the peak season, and it blew up. It went crazy in terms of the number of bookings. So now we're in that waiting game and really watching it closely and trying to drip campaign these people to make sure that they don't cancel. But it'll be interesting to see if it's an increased cancellation rate than normal or not. Yeah.
So would you recommend, because bandwidth issues, we don't have staffing to the degree of this particular hotel that we're doing this with. It's a small hotel. But I'm wondering whether, I'm going to do excellent suggestion thing. I'm going to take it. I'm going to go over and ask them. Maybe we can start slicing up and doing some calls. Do you think we could also trigger emails to them? Just say, hey, we know you can't. Of course. Do you think that would be also productive for that too?
I think that's totally fine. Legally you can, right? You've got an existing relationship. They've transacted with you, so so you're compliant as long as your privacy policy states that you might do that. That would make you GDPR compliant, then I think that's perfectly acceptable.
And it should be a simple question, and you should explain to them why. It's so you can better serve them. You'd like to understand why they chose to cancel.
Yeah.
Right.
I took another suggestion, and it's worked out very well that you all gave me, that when we are giving feedback to consumer sentiment sites like TripAdvisor and so forth, to always invite them back. I don't know whether it was Ed or Stuart. That, but one of you mentioned that always invite them back, and it has literally made a difference in the engagement type, because where the person was aggressively mad, and unfortunately the person that was responding, and this is for the same hotel, ironically, the same hotel where they come off cocky sometimes, like, well, we are in a big city, so your room being a little noisy might be, it's like no.
Yeah.
Don't.
No. Yeah. You're wrong. Your dissatisfaction is wrong.
Right. Don't try to prove yourself right. Acknowledge the incident. Try to rectify the situation. Offer a solution. And then now adding to it, and we'd love to have you back to make this right for you. Right. And that really has changed the voice for them in a nice way. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, we did that. That was on our podcast a couple of episodes ago. We talked about that very thing and what a difference it makes, because you're really trying to, whenever you're responding to a review, you've got two audiences, right? You've got that individual, and your goal there is to diffuse the situation and rehabilitate them. And we all know, we've seen the studies and the data that say someone that was a detractor can become your best advocate if you make it right. So you're always working on them. But the probably equally as important audience is everyone else reading that review, who, especially if it's a negative review, they're going to take bits of that are going to raise their fear and their concern, and you've got to eliminate that. And the best way to do it is to show that you are willing to mend bridges and you want people to come back. It's not adversarial, you're not enemies, that you're trying to work it. So always invite people back. It has a great impact.
And the things you can do.
Yeah. Honestly, it was something we weren't doing, and we started doing it, and it changed the sentiment of the conversation. So thank you. That literally was a changer for us. So
and if you explain the rooms in the back, facing off the street, next time are quieter.
Request something else. Request a certain floor.
Earplugs, because if you're
we're an energetic city that never sleeps.
That's right.
However, if sleep is important to you, requesting rooms that face this specific area albeit
Yeah.
may not have the view that you're looking for. They
Right.
will give you the peace and quiet that you desire.
Or better yet, right?
And-
And what I've seen people do is instead of saying request it, say we've noted on your folio that
Nice,
you would
nice.
prefer this, right? So
On your
automatically, whenever you book from now on, we're going to try our best to put you in one of these rooms.
Unless you book through Expedia.
Unless you
Right.
book through, yeah.
As long as you book
third-party.
directly with us, we'll be able to do this. But if you show up with Expedia reservation, we're putting you in the noisiest ice machine lady.
And
The ice
And-
machine will actually.
We
be
all
in
know
the
hotels
room,
that have that philosophy, right?
and
Where
there
you
will be no
kind of
loss.
stick it to the third-party bookings, which is the
And-
worst thing you
Right.
can do.
So
The
hard.
worst
Yeah.
thing you can do.
We're putting you in the basement with the boiler, baby.
Yeah, you're trying to win these guys over. These are new people that have never booked with you before, probably. The last thing you want to do is give them a negative experience. Give them the
Right.
best experience and then invite them to book direct next time. Way better strategy.
Yep.
But should you tell them that Alex, the PM Dorman, has a full stock of pharmaceuticals to help them with their sleep? I don't know.
Nice.
At reasonable price, he will match the best price that you find elsewhere on the streets.
If legal's your choice, we do stock Benadryl.
This is true. Low grade.
Benadryl.
Hey, for branded product, it was kind of fun. I got geeked out with the one article you threw up, Robert, about the luxury space hotel, the 12-day stay. That was just
One more thing. Can we just cover a couple things on a couple Calibri
Sure,
stats on here?
sure.
Okay, so just a couple of the figures that are there, because again, there's some percentages. One is the loyalty contribution for the total U.S., and there's some large numbers with blocks which compare 2015, 16, 17, 18 with 12.8% increase. This is across all chain scales. So the loyalty contribution has gone up 12.8%. Well, that is a raw number from 2015 to 2018. That's not like a cager number or anything like that, right? Compound annual growth rate. So the compound annual growth rate is only 3.07%, right?
Mhm.
So it's kind of like, oh, don't look at this as 12%. Wow. And again, this was on trailing 12 months through September. But again, they did this weird cut from January through August, right?
Oh, I didn't
And
notice that.
Yeah, the research initiative examines hotel stays over a period from January 16th to August 2018, and then they did this. That one happened to be the 12-month look back, but the other ones wind up being kind of this January to August thing, which I don't know. Going into the fall, that's a different, a very, very different dynamic. But a lot of these general stats just really wind up being a little bit odd when you're looking at the difference.
Well, this is what I said. This is
8.6%, and it grew to 9%, and that wound up reflecting a 9% growth. Well, that's true, but that's only 0.4%, which again across the entire industry is pretty good. On an individual hotel basis, that is rounding. Right?
Well, I'd be
To the
interested.
nearest
I'd be
percent.
interested to know how much the cost
Right.
is attributed to. Like, how much did it cost to grow that percentage?
Right.
Right.
And I
Um,
read all of Cindy's report, going all the way through. I'm probably the only one who reads all these things. But again, they only looked at paid as in terms of the cost of acquisition for direct. They only did paid search and meta search fees. That was it. No
So
other
not the
marketing.
general marketing efforts, because I mean there was
Not the
huge,
tens of millions or hundreds
Yeah.
of millions of dollars being spent on TV, radio, all the other banner ads and things like that, right? So
Interesting.
yeah, that's pretty narrow in terms of the cost analysis. Also, they had the growth. Oh, well, it's on the other one. The growth overall. There was a very kind of confusing statistic that showed the growth of all the various channels being that OTA expenses had gone up 54% over that time frame, which was a pretty startlingly large number. If I can find it, let me see if I can find the actual full thing here. Hang on.
You have 5 seconds.
That's the executive. Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, it had OTA costs going up 54%, loyalty costs going up 27% over the. Those are staggering numbers in and of themselves, right?
So then I look at that and I say, so this overall effort has successfully driven up the cost of acquiring a consumer by double-digit percentage points for everyone involved.
Right. Yeah. Which is pretty crazy. So yeah, it's well, and yeah, I mean, there are just a few things, OTA bookings, net revenue generated for every $1 of investment. For an OTA booking, $4.77. Well, if you kind of, work through that, you go, well, yeah, that's about 20%, right? Overall. And you go, direct loyalty bookings, $8.33. Well, that's about 12%, right? You don't have a commission to a third party, right? So that would make sense. Right? I mean, that's kind of how intermediary bookings work. There is going to be some sort of commission that, you're paying a third party to do something that you couldn't do yourself, right? Because again, if it didn't work, you would have zero. You just wouldn't do it at all.
Right.
As the airlines did, they zeroed out commissions, and they added to their bottom line. But anyway, it's basically the brand contribution is still increasing. The OTA, contribution is still increasing, but not quite as quickly. And that's kind of the thing, is the bottom line winds up being, well, this managed to mute the growth rate of the OTA, of the OTAs. So,
as you're going through this, Robert, and also some other things to consider, and this goes to the other aspects of generalized marketing. Where is the removal or acknowledgement of like meta search and the branding opportunity to put themselves in that role now, where they can drive their own channel on the same platforms? I mean, there's other marketings that are going on that's driving brand value or brand access that they have to somehow discount out of that number to give it a legitimate value proposition as to what the real growth is for these efforts. I mean, they're kind of throwing it all in the same pot from what it sounds like.
Yeah, it sounds. I think they're dealing with direct meta search, spend and things like that, and the pay-per-click stuff. Things that they can say, what are your budgets for that? But there's that whole other realm of everything else that's going into trying to push the brand direct. Plus, they're also getting the benefit, and this is a big one. I think we talked about a few shows ago. The transition from offline, voice and calling the hotel direct channel, going into brand.com and things like that. There's a huge swing in terms of those.
Right. We saw that in a previous report where like the increase in online was heavily dampened by the decrease in voice.
Yeah, well, and brand.com was not growing as fast as the loss of what was going through these offline channels, and OTA was increasing on that. So there are lots of different factors that, again, with no raw numbers in here, only kind of percentages, make it really hard to figure out what's going on.
But
the onion needs to be peeled
50% of the time, it works 100% of the time.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm not saying they're monkeying with the numbers. The numbers are kind of it, but it's kind of like, what are these underlying underlying stats? Because that's what these hotel owners have to deal with, is the real how much money's in the checking account. Oh, hey, this is good. We can go do something with this. So
it's a novel idea.
Yeah.
So all right. So let's move to the Virgin Hotel decision to
become a Curio.
To become a Curio.
I already know where it's going with this. We had a conversation.
You all do. I spoke
to
you all about it. I think it's a huge win for Hilton.
Oh, absolutely!
Amazing job.
Let's tell people what happened first before we start.
The new Virgin Hotel that is taking over the Hard Rock Las Vegas. Announced this week a joint venture with Hilton to have that Virgin Hotel be a Curio, which is a gigantic feather in Hilton's cap. Makes amazing sense for Hilton on why they would want to make this deal happen. However, it puzzles me on what the future of Virgin is. I didn't question when Kessler decided to become an Autograph, because I knew them and I knew where they were in their life cycle and what they wanted to be. And becoming an Autograph made complete sense for them. I always looked at Virgin as wanting to be a Kimpton type story, where they built a very strong lifestyle brand to then sell to one of these big brands. And I don't see that path if you are giving your brand control to one of the brands that should be a buyer. You're now a hotel operator. You're not a brand anymore.
Yeah, and it's interesting because they've spent quite a bit of money in terms of developing their in-room, the digital assistant and things like that, which I think tons of systems built for them. And things.
Well, I think Curio still allows for them to do stuff like that. However, being part of the Hilton brand ecosphere, even as a Curio, you have to follow Hilton's rules, which means you're using their brand standards on email marketing, which kiss your brand vibe goodbye. In that case.
It's interesting because Curio is definitely the one brand that stands out in Hilton's portfolio as
their best
allowing more flexibility. Right, each one of their properties is very unique. They're not just a box with windows and beds. So it'll be interesting to see what the agreement says about the restrictions from a messaging perspective, because there's no way Virgin's going to allow some regional marketing manager to control the messaging that's going out, especially on some of the big channels like email. I don't see that working.
That's the puzzling thing for me. Like I said, I think it's a huge win for Hilton. They basically guaranteed they will not have to buy Virgin.
Exactly.
This is going to be some type of test or experiment that will probably lead to all of them becoming Curios.
Well, maybe, right? But so play devil's advocate for a second, right? So say, because you're making the assumption that this is the model that Virgin's going to go with for all their properties that they roll out. What if it's not, right? What if this is a one-off experiment? Because if you look at it from that perspective, then Virgin now gets access to all of Hilton Honors members
that they're not allowed to touch by Hilton's brand standard. Mm-hmm. Understand Hilton has amazing control over who owns the customer.
Hilton can promote it, though. Hilton is promoting because they're putting out press releases. So from Hilton's perspective, this is a great win, right? This is a flagship property in a flagship city that is going to get promoted to Hilton's Honors people. And guess what? If I were Virgin, I would sit there and say every one of those people that comes long term is a Virgin customer, not a Hilton customer.
Except those people are earning brands. Hilton Honors points, not Virgin points, unless you're going to give double points.
Right.
But
let's be honest, it's going to be one of those destinations where it's probably where more people are exchanging their points than getting new points. Right. People are going to travel through business, get the points, and then they're going to want to go and blow.
Well, and I think it all comes down to the players club. If Virgin's going to have a strong players club and that's how they're going to get around this challenge, then I do see some opportunity there for sure to leech off of the Hilton Honors database by getting the players club for Virgin that's attached to Virgin's loyalty play. But I got to tell you, what should be Virgin's marquee hotel, their volume producer, the real attention getter, you do look at it and wonder why was the decision made, and it's quite possibly financing. I mean, we've talked about this a ton of time.
Very, very possible.
One of the really attractive aspects to having a Hilton flag or a Marriott flag is access to capital. And let's face it, that is a huge hotel. That renovation to undo Hard Rock's branding is going to be a ton of money.
Right.
For sure.
Yep. Yeah. So to get that, I think that's probably it, because Branson has always been very, very kind of transactional on these things. I mean, Virgin America was really kind of more of a licensing deal than anything, right? I mean, that wasn't really directly Branson for maybe a year or so at the beginning, and that was about it. And then it spun out. So I don't know. Yeah, I could certainly see from Hilton's perspective what a coup, because they're developing more Virgin hotels. They had the one in Chicago. They're developing one in Dallas. They've got one in San Francisco. I mean, they're all over. Yeah. So again,
but they haven't said yet whether there'll be a Curio or not. There's other ones. So that'll be interesting to see. Yeah. If they're all Curios, then I'll agree 100% with you, Ed. If they're not, I think it could be a smart play.
Yeah, well, because if they all become Curios, then what is Virgin? They're not the brand.
Right.
They're a hotel operator at that point.
Right.
Yep. Which what are you selling then?
Since we're talking about Vegas, we might as well throw the Caesars article in as well, with them doubling down on their non-gaming growth at Caesar Republic.
Well, I said that just there's this flurry of new brands, right? So Virgin, great brand. Actually, Hard Rock, a pretty solid brand. Which, again, the challenge in Vegas was partly the location off the Strip and that sort of thing, and that is a tough. Location.
There have been some challenges legally with the people involved with that hotel over time.
Right. It's changed management several.
Deutsche Bank ran into a bit of an issue with the GM, if you remember. It's Vegas is a tough market. It really is, and their location is not perfect. The Strip has grown so much that I think it's less impactful now than it was 10, 15 years ago. Yeah. Because let's face it, MGM Grand goes further off Strip physically than the Hard Rock Hotel does. But they do have frontage to the Strip. So, listen, I think it's a huge win for Hilton. It's a flag in a market that is so great, especially, they don't have the Hilton Las Vegas anymore. When Westgate bought that, they dropped that flag, and that used to be a keystone corporate property for them.
Right at the convention center, you bet.
Yep. Yeah. And they really aren't anywhere else on the Strip, because Hilton Grand Vacations doesn't count. That's a different company.
Right.
So great.
And the Las Vegas properties for Hilton back in the day generated 1/3 of Hilton's corporate profit.
Right.
That was kind of 80s, 80s, early 90s, I sort of think. It was just absolutely amazing. But again, you look at, Planet Hollywood, what it went through. It's now part of
Marriott. Because it was a Starwood.
You've got a Venetian. I think the Venetian is partnered in with. Yeah. No, they're with IHG.
Sands?
I think
they're independent.
Are they completely independent?
Yeah.
I thought they did a deal with who does IHG? Marriott also has Cosmopolitan in there under Autograph.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And the SBE, there's the SLS, I think, is running
SLS.
Some type of connection to Marriott.
I'm speaking in Las Vegas at the end of this month. And I'm putting together literally today.
To a crowd, or just to yourself as you're wandering?
On the Strip, he's got a soapbox.
Technically, I speak to myself all the time. Those little voices pop up, I swear.
Hang on. The Venetian and Sands and the Palazzo are Intercontinental Hotels Alliance Resorts.
Oh. Yeah. What does that mean?
So there's I think you can get their
loyalty programs,
members and things like that. Yeah, the rewards clubs folks can say there. You can book them on the Intercontinental Hotels website.
Well, and so what's Caesars tie to Wyndham?
Yeah,
because Wyndham's been promoting Caesars as part of their loyalty program.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, so all of them, they've all kind of aligned with those. And I don't know. It's that was basically the Caesars rewards and the it used to be Total Rewards. I think it's now called Caesars Rewards and the Wyndham Rewards. I think it's a reciprocal loyalty type of thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So Lauren, what are you speaking about in Vegas?
Well, actually, I'm going to solicit the advice of you all as well, because I'm putting the topic together today and the flashboard for it.
Wait, are you just going to be out on the Strip talking, or is this an organized
with a Bible and a megaphone? Yeah, pretty much. I'm going to go.
Check it out. Check it out.
The gospel according to Lauren Gray.
He's going to be handing out cards with pictures.
That's
on
right.
them.
No,
Exactly.
HSMEI and the Nevada Hotel Association asked me to come out and speak. I have 2 hours.
Oh my
God!
I'm
It's not enough time, Lauren. It's not enough time.
I mean, granted, that's 2 slides for Robert, but that would be 190 slides for me.
I'll take Robert's 8-point font times Roman, bullet point.
Yes. I don't use I use non-serif.
I think you should dedicate an hour and 45 minutes to reading the GDPR guidelines.
That would be good.
And on page 12,
Let's take a deep
verse 12,
dive.
commandments be, thou shalt not. All right, so here's the thing. It's about making it work. It's functionality, combination. I'm going to use Mentimeter engagement. I'm going to use case study. The thing with Vegas is, you all have spoken in Vegas, you know that it has to be about Vegas. You can't talk about broad sense stroke stuff. When you're in Vegas,
because most stuff that works elsewhere works completely differently in Vegas.
But you have to Vegify it. You know what I'm saying? You got to Vegify it. You got to put it
Vegify it.
Vegify it.
Got to have gold chain.
Vegify.
Funky rings.
So the idea is that I'm going to put it into stage process. Fun stuff I'm doing. I'm giving them a pre-arrival workbook to go through where they're going to answer 3 questions. There's basically 3 pillar stages to my strategy. I'm going to have questions related to them in context to the presentation. And that's a little bit of a warm-up. So when they're walking to the room, it's not fire hose time. It's like, hey, your mind's in this gear. You're thinking this through.
I feel like it's going to be a fire hose, Lauren.
It's not a fire hose. It's more like
any presentation Lauren gets.
I'm trying to put a valve on it.
It's more personal. It's more like getting waterboarded. Yeah.
Yes. I'm going to take that as
a one-to-one type thing.
All right, but the idea is that making it work, combining the revenue strategy conversations, marketing strategy conversations, even sales strategy conversations to some context. Now, Michael Klein may or may not join me in this process. It depends on his availability and so forth. He's brilliant when it comes to revenue management stuff.
What about Jack Easdale? You should try to rope him in to help you.
I'm leaving it to them to where they want to pull other. Right now, I got the whole thing with it. And what I want to break it up with is I want to get engagement because they won't share. If you ask engagement from a Las Vegas audience, you get crickets. Nobody wants to talk in front of anybody else in that market about anything that they're doing, period. Right. So you can't solicit engagement on working through case studies or how abouts or what ifs with them because they just don't want to share that kind of engagement in front of their competitors that are in the same space. So I'm going to bring it up onto the board where they're answering information through Mentimeter engagement because also, for that kind of time slot, you just don't want to talk at them the whole time. There's got to be this engagement program going back and forth. Mm-hmm. So I'm breaking it up into stages of early adoption conversations as to methodologies, resources, capabilities, and ways of looking at it. Then I want to put in front of them examples where they respond to and then respond to the responses they gave as to their accuracy, correctness, or variabilities. And I want to go through a couple of stage processes like that with them so that for the time, it's a back and forth. They don't have to talk. If they want to raise their hand and say something, great for them, but really it's a matter of engagement and then a reclassification of what they put up there. So opening that up is like, what's some cool stuff that you guys see that would be of interest to throw in there? Because I already have in my mind what things I want to throw out there, but I mean, I'm even up to the idea of bringing you guys on a remote cam and throwing you up on the screen and chit chat for a little bit. I'm throwing everything at them.
I would not introduce technical sorts of things that can have things go wrong.
We're going to be doing Mentimeter anyway. So
although to be fair, getting the live stream to work would suck up 45 minutes of that 2 hours.
Exactly. There you go. That's right.
I don't think that's going to be a problem for Lauren. Him finding something.
I have no problems burning 2 hours. You know that. There's no problem burning 2 hours. It's just a worthy 2 hours. A good.
So the audience, I don't know that well. Is it primarily marketing or sales or rate folks? Who are the primary?
It's probably going to be rep managers, marketers, and maybe a smatterings of ops and sales. Maybe the smattering of sales and smattering of ops.
So what's the official group? It's the
HSMAI and the Nevada Hotel Association. The Untitled Chapter in Las Vegas and the Nevada Hotel Association.
Okay, so it's not part of the governor's conference or anything like that.
Gosh, no. This is self-generated on their part as a part of what they want to do for value.
What did they ask for you to do?
Yeah.
It's
2 hours.
Yeah, it's the speaker that they wanted charged $20,000. So no. Who else do we know? That's cheap.
That's funny.
What did they ask for you to talk about? What's the
really honestly I proposed the idea. They didn't know what to talk about. They just said, "What do you want to talk about?"
So what's the topic? What is the topic?
Making it work. The combination of resources between marketing, revenue management, sales, and operations.
Oh, one anecdote you should give. Did you hear? Were you there when Jay Hubbs mentioned about his marketing team had been working on a project and written out the spec or the process in sales had been doing the exact same thing and came up and they found out after they'd both done it that it was almost exactly the same.
Yeah.
Like that's a great illustration of the inefficiency in the silos, you know?
Yes.
So I think
And then you should bring up
the
the 7-minute presentation that AWS did on how Amazon handles innovation.
Right.
Yeah.
Writing the press release first and then going backwards from it.
Yeah, beginning with the end in mind, but getting all stakeholders to scrutinize. I think that's critical. The
Good points.
FAQs,
Good points. I like that
stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mr. Robert, you have a co-guest
Donald
host.
Trump over there. He just grabbed it.
Seth is he had a point to make, but he decided not to. It was the AWS comment. He thought that would be a good point, but
Well, I'll keep bugging you guys about it because I am putting the market together and the blurb line today to send to them, so I can start doing the promotions for it because it's only 4 weeks to push it. So.
The other anecdote you might want to look at is a lot of people have done an analysis of Sony and how they failed in the music industry and how Apple kind of hijacked digital music from them, even though they had the hardware. They had the music licensing. They had the portable device in brand in terms of the Walkman. And if you look at all the different silos that they had that could easily have done what Apple did with digital music and the iPod, they completely failed because none of these departments were communicating with each other.
Yep.
That's a good
They
point.
had the entire ecosystem.
Everything they needed to make that happen.
It was heavily siloed.
They didn't talk
did
to each other.
the same thing with video with beta, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I like it. Okay, thank you. Yeah. I will start working on that. And seriously, I mean, we joke about it not wanting to introduce technology. Everybody's fearful of trying to do a live cast. As you know, I'm not too worried about those ones anymore. And we're going to be at MGM, so they can give me a definite pipe big enough to do it.
Is Sarah in town while you're there? Sarah Foltz? Because she could probably be someone that would be worthwhile. Yeah. She's doing some interesting stuff these days for MGM.
I'll ask.
Yeah.
And
then the other trend you might want to talk about, Lauren, is how a lot of big groups, management groups, are hiring or appointing a chief commercial officer to sit atop of all these departments and try to bring them together.
To pull the silos together.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nice
you see, if you look at job postings, there's a lot of folks looking for chief commercial officers right now.
Yeah.
Nice.
Radisson number one. Flo Lugley is the acting chief commercial officer there, but they're actively looking. So,
I like
and just be sure to plug my podcast too, Lauren. That's the payment.
You know I do.
Right.
Or
I bring luggage with me when I go to these presentations. There's the standard. And thank you to Tim Peter, who knows everything, Rockchita, that has data on everything, Flip2, that knows everybody, and of course Field Travel, that talks about everybody.
That's fun.
We're like, they hear no evil, see no evil.
I was thinking the exact same thing. Same thing. We cover again.
All right.
But if you can cover if you can maybe framing it in the customer journey or something, like you think you were saying, you start off with kind of the acquisition, bring it through, kind of bring them through the funnel, then what you're doing on site to engage them, things like that, how you can maximize spend, things like that.
The challenge
and how you retain them.
The daunting thing about Vegas is they are kind of the best at everything that our industry has from an example standpoint. I mean,
yes and no, though, but their siloing is rough, though, right? I mean, the casino guys run those reward programs. They don't really. The rooms guys get a lot of second,
Well, except Caesars. I mean, I would say Caesars is
Total
not
Rewards,
that way.
yeah.
Total Rewards, at one point, was the largest consumer database in the world. And man, it was magic. They were either really treating everyone really well, or they're just really good at timing out behavior on when you're likely to book back with them to come and stay. I experienced that firsthand as a Total Rewards member. I honestly think Caesars and MGM and Venetian Palazzo are among the best in marketing that exists in our industry.
I'm not going to discount that at all. But I think I've always given Vegas credit for, in comparison to other markets that have their own uniqueness, like Orlando, like New York, is that they do it at such a scale that they're faster at making good decisions. because any small movement at the volume that they deal with gives them immediate data for feedback, where sometimes in other markets it takes a little longer timeline to see the same type of impact results or variations that you're making decisions on. Vegas is like, you nudge it to the left for a fraction, you get immediate data, and you know whether you have to nudge it back right away or not. So
I mean, you think about just the Venetian Palazzo, the amount of rooms that they have and the amount of convention space that they have is as big as some 70 to 100, location hotel groups.
Right.
They have it in one building.
Yeah, MGM has 46,000 rooms in Vegas alone. That's somebody really should go to STR and ask them where does that stack up in terms of cities in the U.S.
Right.
It's probably bigger than Des Moines or Kansas City or so. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
So again, yeah. All right. Well, hey. So we want to talk about spaceships or no?
Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna book mine as soon as I find the money to pay for it.
Right?
Sorry, the other new brands. That's how we got a space hotel before we did. Airstream, the trailers are doing little kind of trailer park type deals and Airstream trailers for glamping, which I think is probably a good little niche business.
There's a market for that for sure.
Yeah,
Stuart and I had a fun conversation about the keynote from last week about the where he was David, and I respect David tremendously on what he's been doing and what he has done, but he didn't close up a lot of the conversation that we thought he should have as to the real impact of autonomous driven vehicles onto the travel market as ways he could have. And this Airstream conversation is a little bit like that too, is that the mobility of location and opportunity of staying in places that aren't destined, like this, there's the hotel, there's my destination, where I can travel and be wherever I want to with this kind of product. There is going to be an impact to it, but I think that it's not in the ways that it was described, and certainly not in the timelines that are going to create. It's a slow moving process. It's not going to be one day is this and the next day is different.
But it's also not a new idea what they're talking about here. I mean, go to any really high end RV resort. They have cabins on site that are super nice, that operate basically as hotel rooms. They have the facilities to rival a lot of resorts. Is this really new, or is this just, we picked the shiny camper to put on site, so we were able to raise, the Twinkies. We're a Twinkie hotel. You're not. You're an RV resort. That you're calling yourself a hotel, but you're still an RV resort.
Well, they are, but it isn't those people. It isn't those people's
those
RVs,
people,
though.
Robert.
No, they aren't the IV. They aren't the people driving in their RV. These are.
And what I'm saying is, go look at most high-end RV resorts. They have high-end cabins on site that you do not need an RV to stay at the RV resort. And RV resorts are becoming more sophisticated marketing-wise, where they have online booking, they have email marketing, they're doing transactional emails. Like they are definitely upping their game to grab demand in an area.
Yes,
and there is increased demand,
these guys
right?
are doing a nice little niche. This is a nice.
That's why it's newsworthy, right? They were able to raise a good amount of money in a very limited niche, and they're going to probably be really successful. Yeah, and then you throw that brand on top of it, it becomes newsworthy.
But again,
it goes back to like TV.
The issue I have is it's not a hotel.
Right. It's the same thing as down here with whether to own a boat.
Right? It's still
lodging. It's lodging.
So is an RV resort.
It is. But
no, absolutely.
Any cabin, state park, you're right. They are. I don't think this is going to be a disruptor or change patterns of how people stay. But I think
it's because they bought
going to choose
shiny RVs that are shaped like Twinkies, and they raised a lot of money.
Right.
Were you harmed by an RV and why are you hating on this so much?
No, you know what I hate? I hate the stuff that gets news that is not newsworthy, and this is not newsworthy.
But they raised a bunch of money. I
so
think
did
it's newsworthy. Sure, then they get written about when they raise money. Hey,
so I put this in the same equation as like there is a transition of economies, like we talk about the Ubers and so forth, and the autonomous vehicles replacing the ownership of a vehicle, I think is more realistic in the sense I need a pickup today versus a sports car tomorrow mentality, and I don't own a car when I do this. But the other is like down here in Florida, to own a boat or not to own a boat, you still get out on the water, but you join a boat club that today I want a nice little fast boat, and tomorrow I want a cabin cruiser because I want to go park it somewhere. This is that same kind of mentality. You're taking the pain point out of the ownership process. Nobody likes towing a trailer. Nobody likes parking a trailer and setting a trailer and doing all this other stuff. So, hey, what's this? I can go to a place that the trailer's already all set up for me, and I get to enjoy it and then leave. Just like
I can have a crappier experience than a permanently built structure for the same price as staying at a permanently built structure without any of the things.
You're right. You are right. He was owned by an RV. He got
trailers.
Oh man,
these Airstreams are not.
Hey,
moving.
you know what's funny is Ed has been on RV trips. I know he.
I love
has,
it.
so
I love RV.
Exactly.
trips.
So I don't always hating on it.
You know what it is? He probably got snubbed by somebody in the Airstream. You know what? He pulls in with his little rickety RV that he rented, and somebody with an Airstream look down their nose and go, "Oh, you're one of those."
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yes, because people who own Airstreams are so up
cool, right? They had a butler set up they pulled in, and a butler set up the Airstream for them.
There's nothing that's news here. Is my issue with this. So first of all,
they raised a bunch of money, and it's a unique lodging offering.
If
the industry right now is
properly, they could do this very
alternative
well.
accommodations is buzzing right now.
listen, glamping is a thing. Disney, Fort Wilderness, Westgate, River Ranch. Half the RV resorts up the eastern seaboard of the United States have high-end cabins.
Sure. But this isn't a cabin. You're actually staying in the RV.
Well,
you're staying in the RV.
You're staying in a
in a
fixed
fixed
RV, so you're staying in a trailer park.
Well, like what is it?
That's like trying to say that buying a permanently fixed trailer to live in is as good as a house.
But for some people it is.
Yeah, for this sort of thing,
when I moved to the US,
they could do something.
When I moved to the US in 2001, I lived for the first 6 months here in a trailer park in a trailer, and it was the best lifestyle for someone new to an environment. Right, I loved it.
Right, because at any point you could pull up and drive away, right?
Yeah, and I was still mobile.
It was fixed to the ground.
It would have taken a little bit of work, but it could have been moved.
It would have cost as much as buying a new one. And this is my point. So the point of an RV is the road trip. It's seeing like the adventure in the journey.
Actually,
for some people, yeah.
That's why it's worth putting up with the fact that it's not quite as nice as staying in a hotel.
Actually, I'll tell you what, these RVs and stuff, even Airstreams included, there is some luxury to these things. They got fireplaces and everything else in them nowadays. But here's the other change point to this is that not everywhere can you put a hotel that you can put an RV park or place an RV to stay in. So you're able to have different experience-driven things based on variant locations.
But everywhere you could build one of these, you can have an RV park.
So, well, you could, but these are for RVs. That they aren't RVs, right? This is not the RV market that they're going on. Those are the units that they're using as fixed lodging units.
Semi-committed glampers. Semi-committed glampers. That's what this is for.
Right, exactly.
But
I bet they could do these. I think they could have some of these. They've tried it before where they've said we'll have temporary housing for concerts or events or things like that. These guys may be able to pull it off.
Well, look what happened to Lollapalooza. Wyndham put the yurts up. Remember, they put the yurt hotel up over by Lollapalooza, and made it as a PR piece.
Well, and these things
way too much time on this one article,
roll, right?
Yeah, right. You're right. This was just more than just fun for it. And I wanted to talk about spaceships.
Why did we talk about the Airstream article?
Robert brought it
article is so much more.
Brought it out because it's alternative accommodations, right? Which is
it's another brand that's going. You've got all these kind of luxury brands that are now going into hotels. It's just more fragmentation of these.
This isn't a hotel.
And so you have little Nell Hotel Group again. They're going out. They're doing the same thing. They're going to start their own little.
But that's like the Pod
resort brand
in New York Times Square. It's not a hotel.
The Cubic. The Cubic Hotel.
It's still lodging. It's where
I think the Cubic Hotel is the best alternative lodging example that actually could be interesting as a way to disrupt the industry, because the whole design of Cubic Hotel is you literally could pop up a hotel in 30 days inside of Class A office space.
Mm-hmm.
But what's the difference between that and a truck pulling up with cots in an 18-wheeler and calling it a temporary hotel at a concert?
You remember when I said we
the
spent too much
Cubic
time on
Hotel has everything a hotel has, including hallways.
Yeah.
So that's a criteria now? A hotel has to have a hallway?
Motels don't have hallways.
And a motel is not a hotel.
We're in the lodging business, the hospitality business.
Yes,
Oh,
and my issue is them calling a bunch of trailers on a flat Earth a hotel.
Believe me, buddy. Believe me, that is not your issue.
The therapist, it has to be a lot of Airstream Twinkie hotels.
That's right.
That's the only thing. That's the only reason they raised money, is they said, no, it's not an RV park. We're going to put a bunch of Airstreams on there, and those, like, that's what's going to work.
All right, let's move on.
Okay, so let's move into space. We're shooting this Airstream trailer up into space. Now is it something?
Yes.
Solar panels on it. That's a unique experience.
How much was it to do this hotel? I forget how much was it to go up to space? 250 was it? 250,000?
This
I don't remember.
On Virgin Galactic. I mean, the last time I
Virgin
saw
Galactic's, Virgin Galactic for 8 minutes is $250,000 for 8 minutes. 8 minutes of weightlessness, basically.
Okay, show of hands. Who thinks it's worth it?
But this one is like,
this one's $9.5 million.
Yeah, this is $9.5 million for 12 days up in space.
Right.
But you also have to train
12 by
3 months
36.
beforehand.
Yeah, you've got to train for 3 months, and it's a 12 by 36 square foot space, or 12 by 36 space, which you are sharing with 4 other people. Or if you're a couple, you're sharing with
another couple. Right.
Another couple, and then the pilot.
So as a couple, you're going to go through 3 months training together. That should be lovely.
You're in low Earth orbit, which is going to get there's going to be a whole bunch of other satellite debris that people are just tossing up there.
It's going to be like
around you.
It's going to be like staying near the Hudson River. There'll just be garbage all around you.
It'll be like staying in an Airstream by the Hudson River.
I predict this never gets. It's a bad pun, but this never gets
off the ground.
Off the ground.
I don't think
but
this
here's
is
a
ever.
huge upside. There is a strong chance you could develop superhuman strength because of the amount of radiation that you'll be exposed to.
Exactly.
I think the space elevator is a bit better choice. I think
you could get there cheaper by just going to a Russian airport to get to the space hotel versus one that would have safety as part of it.
All right, Mr. Roberts, since you put the wonderful curated list together, and we've totally bashed a couple of your articles. What else would you want to
no, I thought the best part of that article was their crowdfunding for investors, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so far, they
should
raised
talk to the people who gave $115 million to the Twinkie Camp Park.
Yeah. And if you go to
let it go.
Yeah, if you go to their Seed Invest page, it doesn't work anymore. I don't know if they lost it or if it was I don't know. That they may
it
have
was
pulled
irradiated.
The plug already. Yeah, they may have pulled the plug on it already. I'm not sure. So anyway, I don't think it's not gonna fly. So
I'm sure you could buy the International Space Station pretty cheap. It is past its life.
Yeah, exactly.
And none of the governments want to put money into it, so just buy that.
A little more than 9.4 million, I would imagine.
Probably.
But all the bugs are worked out.
This is true.
I don't know. Maintenance out there is quite that gets tricky.
Well, that's the problem with space hotels in general is let's go to most hotels, and what's the sin that most hoteliers commit? It's deferred maintenance. Deferred maintenance in space is a little bit scarier.
Yeah. Well, the nice thing, you don't have to call down. You don't have to call down to the desk and say, "Hey, my air conditioning isn't working." You can just, it's 12 by 36 feet. You can go right over to the guy. Goes, why? If you can revive them,
right?
And say, "Hey,
oxygen filtration is not working."
Yeah, it's minus. Yeah, Yeah, it's minus 35 here. What are we
The
doing?
toilet
Temperatures
suction
dropping.
isn't quite strong right now, as
Yeah,
you can
that's
see
gonna be
by
the
the debris floating around.
Yeah. Oops,
Yeah.
I'm really sorry. It's
That's not a
bad
Snickers.
situation there. Yeah.
I'd love to talk. Hey, you know what? We should try to find out who's behind the idea and have them on the show and see how serious they are. That would be a really interesting guest, because I've got to think these are probably either perpetual entrepreneurs or someone young that's graduating with some kind of background in space science or something like that, right?
What was it? Frank Bunger, right? Who is the founder.
I'm gonna. That's my mission. I'm gonna go find him and I'm gonna reach out to him and invite him on the show. Because I'm fascinated.
I always measure these success opportunities based on the amount of money they spent on the renderings, and the rendering is a little thin there. The simulation of being in the space station, that's a little thin of a rendering. So don't know.
And they said the full astronaut experience and had a picture of somebody spacewalking in a full suit. That's a little bit different too. But
spacesuits are so easy to make. I mean, ask NASA, because they've not at all had a problem with running out of spacesuits because they didn't manufacture enough 30 years ago.
Right, exactly.
And there was this little thing about making water fill them up and drowning, and that's just little miscellaneous things, and micro holes that leak out air. Just nothing really important.
Yeah, I guarantee you I won't be on the maiden voyage of this thing. I guarantee that.
All right. Hey, so you want to hit the Airbnb one? You want to hit the Airbnb article? 1 year later, Airbnb and hotels?
We can.
Which one was that?
I didn't even read that one.
I just thought it was interesting.
SiteMinder. Yeah. Airbnb and SiteMinder.
Yeah, the deal with SiteMinder.
SiteMinder was the first company to be given essentially the ability to push inventory from hotels into Airbnb, right? So it's interesting because if you look at the data, they say, we've had an increase of hotel type inventory on this platform of over 100%, but they didn't say how many it was, right? There wasn't a quantifiable number, which makes
they could have moved from 8 to 16.
Right. They refused to say the number, which tells me it isn't as big as you would think. Now, Fuel right now is working on an integration with Airbnb to do the same thing SiteMinder is, because it's not exclusive. They're letting other folks do it. And we're getting a lot of demand, especially for, a lot of our clients are in the condotel arena, so they have individual homeowners and they have offsite rental managers and all those challenges, which means some of their inventory that they don't manage from the same property is showing up on Airbnb, so they want to compete with that. So we're building that right now. But people don't go to Airbnb for that kind of inventory. They just don't, So I think you've got to be somewhat unique. I mean, you've got to be maybe an Airstream RV
campsite
park or something like that. To work on Airbnb.
You need to be a Tesla Model S with a foam mattress in it.
Exactly.
Now,
That's the
I'm
experience.
planning a trip to Europe to visit family in April for a couple of weeks, so I'm looking at Airbnb options, and it's very interesting, the variations of looking for hotel discoveries and where you would stay at a hotel, and then the hotels being in the Airbnb space. But I also came across something else. I was going to ask you guys about this, and this is not in any of your listings article. Booking.com's going Booking.basic, offering third-party rate stuff because GDPR. I mean, they can't offer rate parodies, obviously, in the EU, so they're offering to get into FIT space. They're offering negotiated rates through this Booking. That's scary stuff, and it's
really scary. Really scary.
So Lauren, while you were in Europe, by the way, I learned about something that I think you would find very interesting. It's an app called Eat With. Have you heard of this?
With families, right? You can go eat with people.
Right, but some of these people are like full-blown chefs.
You're
going to their house. They're cooking for you. Like,
it's like one in Australia called My Table has the same thing.
So Eat With is big in Europe. You should check it out.
Definitely, because of course it'll be a lot of fun. I mean, really would be a lot of fun.
If you go into England, you can eat with my mom and dad if you want. My mom's a good cook, so
bangers and mash with the.
She cooks a mean roast dinner, man. Yorkshire puddings at the bomb. Yeah, for sure.
There you go.
Thank you. Actually, we were thinking about maybe try to do a detour off into to either do London or head up to Scotland for a few days just to.
No, he said with his family, so you have to go to Australia.
Oh,
I thought it was New Zealand. I had no idea. Or
Australia,
New
Europe,
Zealand or South Africa? I don't know.
but yeah, no, the Booking.basic
God,
one thing
never
more
gets
interesting.
old.
They really does offer a scary thing if that starts getting
Yeah.
larger or used.
So my understanding is they're putting it, if they find that the hotel website is showing a lower rate than the hotel's publishing to Booking.com, then they're showing the Booking basic prices, which is coming from third parties, right? From
So
wholesalers.
they're doing the opposite of
VRBOs
Trip
type stuff.
They're doing the
Yeah.
opposite of Trip
Yeah,
Sheet.
it's like the reverse.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So they're basically saying, if you're not going to have parity here or give me the best deal available, I'm going to find someone that does. And it's especially painful if you are a condotel and you have multiple people renting out of your property, because they can get inventory from all these the non-management companies, and that's going to screw the people that are legitimate, right? At front desk.
Because there's no amenities attached to it in most cases. And so, yes.
Yeah, a lot of times. Yeah. And then people get disgruntled and don't ever stay at that property again. So the management company loses out, or they go on TripAdvisor, leave a negative review for the property, not for the management company that has a crappy product. So, yeah.
I wonder, just in a hypothetical sense, speaking hypothetically, wonder if we were to fraction from a condo ownership group the ability for not only to have your Google PIN put in for your particular unit rather than the entity that is a part of it, so that people could, on TripAdvisor and on Google, actually review that individual unit in comparison to the businesses. Would that, it would solve a lot of shit, first off, excuse French, because a lot of times,
it's a family show. There's a lot of 12-year-olds watch this show, Lauren.
That's true. I'm sorry, all the kids that are up on
there is a call on Monday for the resurrection of the Universal Global Identifier, which has been kicking around for a couple of decades, of how you have something for an owner who can identify their particular unit and then have it be extensible as deeply as you would like. So HTNG and Open Travel are again resurrected.
There is already a unique identifier for each of those units. They're called plats, and every county creates them for real estate. They don't do it for hotel rooms, but they do it for condo hotels, where each one of those units has a unique identifier already in place.
Yes.
It's the plat.
Yeah.
So
and
it actually would be easier for condotel than it would be for hotels and Airstreams.
Well, and what you want to do is to tie it to the physical asset, as extensible as that may be. It could be, here's the entire complex, right? Or you want to drill down to a fractional ownership unit of a particular room. That's fine. And I think once you do that, it's the equivalent of the little blue check mark on Twitter or whatever, right? It's like, oh, that really is the person. And I really think maybe the technology is there now where you can say, good, Ed owns that, and Ed says go get the stuff at Fuel Travel, right? There's the site, here's the URL, that is where my room descriptions are, or here's where, you go to Synixis or whatever to get my thing. This is the official.
Do they still hate like that people still refer to them as Synixis and not Sabre Hospitality?
Yeah,
because we all do it.
I think they still use the term Synixis, so I think they're still. I don't.
Well, that's the product name, right? The booking engine is still branded,
right? But like we all do it. Everyone in the industry calls them Synixis.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, and it's easier than you call it Sabre. It's like, oh, well, is that the GDS or is that what is that? Which can certainly be confusing. Certainly not as confusing as Travelport, who has 3 GDS cores and a bunch of other stuff, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Travel Click, who has EZ Yield.
EZ Yield, best name channel manager.
EZ Yield. That's great for North America.
Yep.
Yep.
All right. But the topic did you find happiness
the weird thing is when Ed named Easy Yield, it was actually a typo. It was supposed to be the S and the Z are pretty close together on the keyboard, and he accidentally hit Z instead of It
was going to be SE Yield.
ES.
Ed StOnge Yield.
Exactly.
That's funny.
Hey, I was 22 years old That's all I'm gonna say. Okay.
We won't hold it against you, Ed.
I was 22 years old and was at the time working for a company called Hotel Kingdom.
Hotel Kingdom.
Yes.
Was that in Orlando?
It was Orlando.
Or just
And,
kind of
it was
trying to
a mom
skirt
and pop
Disney,
OTA
Yeah.
For Orlando, basically.
skirting Disney's, intellectual property lawyers barely. Yeah,
Well,
you don't
no.
have
If
Kingdom.
anything, if they violated anything, they were using Microsoft clip art way too much.
That's funny.
Oh boy,
So,
that's funny.
if we want to combine an article about the ability for bookings on Instagram, but the conversation about how Facebook is merging Instagram, WhatsApp,
And
Facebook,
WhatsApp, yeah.
And putting this all into one amalgamated mess, because obviously there is a threshold of maximization that they can monetize right now. And interesting article about the actual value and cost of a value per user in Facebook was it $7.47 now? That's the value per user that the Facebook is assigned.
Do you know what I love about this industry? What I love about this industry is when some new consumer behavior comes out, we are so obsessed with how can we take bookings from there? How can we boil down the amazing decision of deciding where you want to stay to a photo? When Facebook really opened up, everyone was so obsessed with Facebook booking widgets. Like, people are obsessed with Google AdWord booking widgets, and now we're super excited about Instagram booking. Guys, it takes more than a photo to make the decision. Stop trying to minimize a hotel decision to such basic things. It's a waste. It is just a waste.
So back in the day, and I agree, we fell into the trap a little bit. So we built, and it didn't take a lot of development.
It didn't take a lot of work to make a booking widget. No, we made bunches of
we created, we had a book now button that was on all our clients' Facebook pages that framed in the booking engine process. It was great. Got to the end where it would just link out to the website for the credit card piece for PCI compliance. But you know how many bookings we made through that? And we probably had that on, I would say, at least a couple of hundred hotel Facebook pages.
All right,
you know
how
many
many?
bookings we made?
Two.
I literally think it was 7.
Yeah.
And it was up for about a year. Some folks still might have it.
So here's the thing. Here's the thing about this industry. This industry is obsessed with minimizing their marketing effort to nothing more than sleep with me. That's it. They don't want any value discussion. They don't want to sell the unique properties of the asset. They literally just want it to be like, hey, you're there. You want to sleep with me?
Right.
Because they know if they just say it enough, people will say yes. Right. But here's the thing. Everyone else who sees it, you're burning. Introduce yourself. Have a conversation. Sell. Because you know what happens when you sell the value that you provide? Rate becomes far less of a deciding factor because they understand your value proposition and will pay what your value proposition deserves. You're not getting that by having a photo on Instagram. You're definitely not getting that by having a booking widget on your poorly managed Facebook page. I mean, this industry is so obsessed with it.
Well, the other part they're missing, right? The other part that people don't think about is the consumer themselves. What are they on that platform to do?
Right.
Get to know them. Why are they there? How can you be helpful, not in the way, in that environment? And people don't. They try to do this one-size-fits-all approach to all of the channels without stopping to think about the consumer first and understanding why. It's always going to happen.
That's why the OTAs have done so well, right? Because it's low risk. It isn't hard to accept OTA bookings. You just give them the stuff. They sell it for you. You only pay on delivered business.
It's a faucet. You can turn it on and off, right?
Right,
yeah.
Exactly.
I will say this, though. In my personal philosophy is whenever there's the opportunity for a new type of ad unit, right? Because you've got a finite amount of budget. you should always have a percentage of your advertising budget that is earmarked for experimentation. And the best places to experiment are new marketplaces. So some of these new ad units that are now available, the arbitrage is always going to happen, right? Whenever it's new to a market, it's going to be underpriced until competition comes in, and whoever the publisher is understands the value and maximizes their return. You know, it happened with AdWords. It happened with any kind of Facebook ads. It's still happening now with dynamic ads for travel on Facebook. It's going to happen with these new ad units too. So if you're a savvy marketer and you understand the platform and you understand the consumer and what they want on that platform, and you aren't just asking for them to sleep with you, you are asking them to go on a date with you to get to know each other, then it's a great investment, or at least an experiment of selling your advertising.
And unfortunately, Stuart, though, your if eliminated 98% of how this will be used. Because 98% are going to completely ignore the fact that Instagram is super top of funnel, inspiration, time-killing, dreaming, and they're just going to go book now, $99, completely eroding any guessing on value that may have come from the imagery that you have there.
And they'll try to measure on last click analytics.
And they're going to say it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And this is going to be the end result. You're going to have hotel groups saying social media doesn't work.
Lauren's experimentation on his Tinder profile, where he goes out and says, please advise me when we can get married, how many children we can have, and that it's been effective, right, Lauren?
Absolutely. I mean, it's our solid strategy.
You did hear that Grindr has a book now agreeing coming for hotels to market.
There you go.
Okay, look, I'm going to I'm agreeing with everything that's being said. I'm agreeing with everything that's being said, but I didn't read it this way. I looked at it as an opportunity of conversion based on the end of a storyline. I didn't see it as a thrust in your face grinder. Mode of conversion, okay?
What a glorious hole of discussion this has turned into.
You know, we need to invest in some penalty flags here.
But the idea,
or Stuart, no, maybe we should use cards. Maybe, Stuart, I think, is that a yellow card or
you got a yellow card,
not a red card?
Yellow card, yep. I'm red carded on that one. All right, so the idea I thought about this was just a modality of using the channel for when the choice of conversion was possible. Not this is a strategy, but to your point, Ed, and to everyone else's point, it's going to get destroyed in this. Just throw it up there, make it happen, and not put it to accumulation of progressive conversation, progressive discovery, top of funnel exposure. And by the way, if you want to keep in this medium, here's an opportunity for you to convert via this. That's how I kind of looked at what the real potential of it was.
There's a ton of potential. You're 100% right. The opportunity is great for good marketers. The problem is 98% of the industry are not good marketers.
Let's not go for book now. Let's go for like deep linking into something that would
sign up for spam. Let's be honest in the buttons.
Sign up for spam. Yeah, but if you took it as a platform where you can intrigue people, offer them a sense of discovery, that would
give
be
them a call to action that matches where they're at in the buying decision, which is like get insider information on the best ways to stay with us. Oh, wow. Imagine. And then deliver content that actually fulfills that.
If you're sharing, like I picture, like if you had event-driven stuff and you're showing, you're exposing the event and the relationship with the hotels and commitment to it and all these fun things, and then in that dialogue you bring in an opportunity saying, and if you're thinking about coming to the event and giving them a chance of conversion through the dialogue that you've presented in the story, that to me is that's a nice add to that. Rather than having to pull them out of that environment to find another means of conversion. That's where I saw to this, but. To your point, they're going to be like, "Oh, let's light that bad boy up and just throw rate and date, and just shove it in people's face."
And without fail, there will be a vendor that charges $50 a month, so you can have your Instagram booking widget, and they will amass 1,000 hotel customers who do it.
Robert, are you building that now?
And they will raise $115 million.
But Ed,
Twinkie hotels.
Ed, this would have worked so well for an event like the Fire Festival or something like
Yes,
that. I mean, just book now, you're done and go.
I mean, and
Get the
think
money
about
and-
all the amazing after marketing that they've gotten for their next festival.
Exactly.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. So was that the rut-row? Because it kind of felt like the
Let's hit the
rut-row.
rut-row.
The rut-row was the other one. Oh, before we jump into that, can we talk about the Skift? I don't know if it was from their conference. They talked about personalization and the challenges with personalization, and just not the article itself, but there was some really interesting data down the side of the article that talked, like, for example, there was one where they asked people about would they be willing to give their data for different types of things. So if it was to personalize the experience, everyone was like, I don't care because it's not that good. And then they asked vendors, are you investing in or should you be personalizing messages? And everyone was yes. So there was this big polarization between what consumers wanted and the value that they perceived and what the hotel industry thinks the consumer wants. So it's like they're not communicating, which is really interesting.
You mean there's a disconnect in understanding between the traveler and the supplier?
Yeah, can you believe that?
I mean,
Yeah.
You would think if that problem really was a persistent problem, there would be third-party companies that take advantage of that in a mass scale to get their cut of the hotel industry's profit
on a revenue share basis. Exactly.
Right. Because you don't want to make the hotels pay up front because no one would accept that. But pay on success.
Only somebody could think of. Yeah.
I can't believe
today, man.
I can't believe that there's a possibility that the hotel industry doesn't understand truly what the traveler wants. Because if there would be billion-dollar companies that existed taking advantage of that.
So, Stuart, do you want to meet me in Orlando while I rent an Airstream to pull up and get Ed's front door? Going, howdy, neighbor.
Man, your cynicism is up to 11 today, man.
It is.
Found it up your Spinal Tap today.
Yeah.
You know what it is? Wow. I was on vacation at a great resort that had committed so many marketing sins and missed so many opportunities. And any of you who are friends with me on Facebook can even see the extent I went to not call out the name of the hotel because of just how many missed opportunities there were. And it's just infuriating to me, the missed opportunities that exist, that if there was any strategy whatsoever, any strategy put behind some of the most simplistic, understanding of your customer, you could make so much more money, more money. Hire people who are better at the things that you need than you are. That's
right.
Stuart, do you hire people that are better than you for the specific positions? Right.
100%. Yeah.
Well, he tries. He's unable to, but he tries.
See, for me, it's easy. I mean, it's basically, do you breathe? Better than me. That's good.
He takes out the mirror. Can you fog this? Yeah. You're our guy.
Yeah. But that's the thing. I don't understand how you own an asset that is so valuable, and you don't take the time to understand your customer and audit your own processes. Because there's no way, if you're auditing your processes, there's no way you can find what you're doing as acceptable.
Acceptable, right. Yeah, you've got to tolerate a level of incompetence to accept that kind of stuff. And that's why this article specifically was about personalization, but you could apply it to a lot of the buzzy stuff in the industry right now. A lot of people are talking about how AI is going to revolutionize CRM and things like this, right? It has the ability to live chatbots, things like that. Those are the other buzzy thing that everyone's saying you should be jumping on this, but we don't get our fundamentals right. Ed and I were at a conference in Destin recently, and they had a live chat feature or a chatbot kind of feature that was meant to be real time, and it was terrible. It made our experience worse than had it not existed.
Literally, I got an SMS message saying, "I am your automated chat assistant. Feel free to ask me any questions." And I was like, "Ooh, that's kind of cool." So I asked, what color was George Washington's white horse? And I didn't get an immediate response. So I'm like, I broke it. But then I got a clever response. So then I'm like, is this actually an automated system or, is there a human here? And it's like, oh, no, it comes straight to the front desk.
Right.
And why are you selling it as an automated?
Right. Why position
chatbot?
it the way you did? Right. Say,
Right.
hey, this is a direct channel to the front desk. It may take us up to 15 minutes to respond, but we will get back to you. You know, something like that. Much better expectation.
It's funny you bring that up because in two circumstances, especially in New York, with the Adrian Awards, they used the Marriott Live board. You know, this is a big deal. You know, hashtag Adrian Awards, and you'd be on the board. And it's easy. One, it's easy to hijack that stuff. They say it's fun, but it's easy to hijack that stuff.
But somebody was curating that, right?
Yeah, but you still can hijack it because they're not curating it correctly. And then,
right, because real-time curation is difficult.
That is.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. And the other is
you need to do it properly. You've got to have it in a queue that you just have that person going release instead of I'll pull down the bad stuff. You can't do it that way.
And the other part of it is that the impact that they had hoped for it to be of like, look how trendy we are, look how progressive and so forth, was lost because it briefed up from all of 5 or 10 seconds to show something. You saw some garbage stuff come up, and obviously the person that was curating saw the garbage stuff too, and it comes back down again. And it's kind of like, why am I taking my time to distract myself to add content to something that, one, I don't get to see the results of, two, what's the value proposition? So then in the digital conference, when we had the board go up where we're doing the Mentimeter responses and so forth, it's kind of fun to have the people do live engagement, but it immediately goes in a south direction where people start putting up weird stuff. They start promoting their company. They start talking about their best friend. They put gibberish up to see if it shows up on the board. You know, it's like
that's why you want to limit what you ask people, right? Because the ones where it was data driven, where it was just a checkbox, there was some good insights.
There was great insights.
But then when it was an open field, there was a lot of nonsense. It was funny. But again, I don't know if it was valuable.
Yeah, I mean, from a humorous role, it's fine. But and one thing out of the conference that we've mentioned on last show that I want to bring up to this time: over 50% of the people that were at the conference have only been in the industry long enough to only be in an up market. They don't know what a down market is. They don't know how to run, and they have no experience. I should say, not that they don't know. They don't have no.
They're about to find out, ladies and gentlemen. They're about to find out.
Buckle up, boys and girls.
Brace yourself, Ben Lou.
I'm already seeing the very clever decisions in prep for that. I don't know if you've been seeing it, Stuart, but I'm seeing.
Wait, are people cutting their marketing budget?
Yes,
that's the first thing people do.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a demand issue. Oh, if there's a demand issue, we should stop spending trying to get demand.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh,
let's cut our operating costs by not getting the best software as well. Let's get the cheap version of that software.
Yes.
Again,
well,
one of the groups.
Hey, listen, I know I've been a positive influence on today's show.
Yes.
I hope you saw that my head was completely in the clouds, but I do have to go. I have other calls today. It was a pleasure seeing you all. If you want to find out more about me, it's you can find me on Tim Peters' blog /flip2, or you can just go direct to www.flip.to. And I hope you guys all have a great weekend.
Thank you, Mr. Ed. We appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye.
Yes. I was going to say there was one group, again, the OTAs, who do a lot of testing, and I was going to bring it up before, but with like these advanced deposits, prepay and save, that sort of thing. It appears Booking.com's working with a bunch of European hotels on doing something where if you book, it's not guaranteed, or it's not prepaid, but the cancellation point isn't like the day before arrival. It's 38 days before arrival. And I saw this because I'm planning a trip to Italy.
Kind of an Airbnb thing?
What? No, this is on Booking.com. Just on
Booking.com. No. Airbnb has similar policies like that. They have stringent policy guidelines that, and it's controllable by the host as to what they want to enforce. But they have 30 days, 60 days. I mean,
Well, these were 38 days kept popping, and they were different arrival dates, right?
I wonder why it was that number.
I don't know. I don't know if it was
some data told them it should mean that. Yeah, maybe so.
And these were also hotels, not apartments, right?
You guys are both way older than me, so I'm going to ask you a historical question because I don't know this. Like it always, when I came into this industry, and like a lot of people, I kind of fell bass backwards into the hospitality industry, but it surprised me because I wasn't someone who traveled a lot as a kid, but it surprised me that the policy in general was this 24, 48-hour cancellation policy. Has it always been that way, or is that something that evolved over time?
It used to be hold till 6. So 6
Okay.
p.m. the date of arrival, you could just make a reservation, and they'd hold it till 6, and then it'd go away. So no credit card guarantee or anything like that.
So why doesn't the industry, and I know how great the industry is at working together, but why doesn't it work together to try to solve that issue by gradually nudging that up?
They have a little bit. I mean, now they have they went from 24 to
24 to
48
48, right? But why don't the
because
big boys
nobody's
get together and
because
say,
it's so fragmented. Other people will go and do the worst example is the rental car business, which is just ridiculous. They now, especially because it's so consolidated down to basically 3 companies, you can still make non-guaranteed, non-credit card, book it, let it go. And there are corporate executives who there's one company in particular. When I was at Budget Rent a Car, it was great. The executive assistant would book all the rental car companies with these reservations, and then when the CEO went, because they had so many problems, it's like, no, I booked you on Hertz, and you go to Avis or whatever, for whatever, maybe cars are sold out. They just booked all of them, and he just went to wherever he wanted. He got in the car and drove off. That was the easiest user experience for that CEO.
Well, we as consumers have to understand that we're going to ruin the marketplace by doing things like that or booking 5 hotel rooms. I get that you're an experimenter, but if everyone books 5 hotel rooms and cancels, the marketplace collapses.
It should be. Yeah, the marketplace should have the discipline of the airlines. Now, again, the airlines have done lots of things to basically split out the origins and destinations, right? So exactly, I'm going to be speaking at a JetBlue Ventures conference in March, right, in New York, and they're like, oh yeah, because they're the venture capital arm of JetBlue Airways. They invest in a lot of interesting companies. That's great, but they don't fly from Dallas. Well, they do fly from Dallas to New York if you want to spend 6 to 9 hours connecting in Boston, right? Sort of thing. So, these guys have divvied up, American and Southwest kind of control their hubs. United has Houston, and the nonstop O&Ds have been kind of divided out. And that way they've put in kind of these, onerous restrictions where they can keep, going, well, yeah, you book far enough in advance, you get a low fare, and then it's going to keep going up until date of departure. Right. Everybody's good. Hoteliers, that fragmentation.
I'll actually invoke my age in this answer to this part. There was a time back before internet and so forth, and before people mostly had credit cards, that when you made a hotel reservation via mail, where you literally sent a letter saying, I'd like to stay with you, and then get a letter back saying, oh yeah, and a letter back that says, we're looking forward to having you with us. It used to be one of 2 choices that a hotel could do. We need your deposit check to confirm your reservation, or, and this is like offering a early bird buffet. Once you start couponing, you got to stay couponing. We'll just hold it for you until you arrive, because people would send checks and they would hold the check. They wouldn't cash the check. They'd hold the check as confirmation of the reservation. And so it made it easier, rather than do the 2-stage dialogue, for one hotel to say, wait a minute, I can speed up my reservations by not demanding that requirement. I'll just hold the room for you until you get here. And once that got started, it started getting in propagation. Even when people got credit cards, they put the credit card on, they wouldn't even charge that. They just got the card to hold. Right. Now we've changed laws. You can't hold the card number and so forth, and retain it and so forth. So the deposit has to be made while the card is still active. And so we've progressively added laws and so forth in that have influenced the usability of deposit requirements. And of course, as it always is a sales tool to say, okay, I'll give you a lower rate if you do it as a non-refundable. That got, in 2008, that got shattered. 2008 was the year that it crushed any pre-arrival deposit requirements, because it was a mandate of groups, it was a mandate of reservations. I'm charging your card when you arrive or when you make the booking, and we're holding it as a deposit, and you're going to lose money if you don't come through with your reservation. Well, in 2008, that was one of the first things that got thrown off to the side. Hey, I'll take any reservation you got, and
eliminate any level of friction, right? Yeah, make it.
So that was the progression of time through all that.
And that's how, in the early 90s, Hotel Reservations Network, HRN, which became Hotels.com, that's how they started. You had a Gulf War in Kuwait and things like that. You had all sorts of kind of economic downturn, stuff like that, a little recession, and they wound up doing this kind of consolidation thing. And these guys, being smart lawyers, started erasing these terms, and the hoteliers didn't care. They either didn't care or didn't notice.
Didn't,
And it's like, oh, you
Yeah.
don't have the inventory risk. I have the inventory. Because a lot of these were, we'll give you 100 rooms a night or 10 rooms a night or whatever it is. And those were yours. Like, give me the money. And then, they're yours or go. All of a sudden you can turn this stuff back. And that's what launched the whole merchant model thing.
Yep.
Right? I mean, that was.
I mean, even the wholesalers, before there was actually some deposit requirements to wholesalers back before the internet. Before the internet, where you had to actually pay a deposit value to the hotel for the inventory that you were promising to bring to them as a collateral value for your contract. I mean,
I've got a great one on that at Mark Travel. I think the statute of limitations is probably over because I did this.
Dude, we're talking about time when there was horses walking on streets. Okay.
No, this was before the global meltdown, right? This was like 2007. I think it was 2006, 2007-ish. I'm at Mark Travel. I'm running all their non-air product contracting account relationships. They used to pay all the Mexican hotels, and we were sending 750,000 passengers a year into Mexico. So a lot of people prepaying the entire first quarter stays on like November 15th or something like that. And it was like, wow, it was $17 million. Right? That's a lot of money. You got at a period where for a tour operator is the lowest period of time for taking in cash, right? Your cash flow is the worst. So I went to them and said, I'm going to get rid of this policy. And they're, oh my God, I was threatened with my job. You will get, you lose one of these deals where we're getting these discounted rates by pissing off these guys have to pay their, they had to pay. That's how they paid their Christmas bonuses for their employees was the excuse. It's the entire country. And I'm like, it's not. I don't know who told you this or how you came up with it. I changed all of them. I went to every single account, went, we aren't a bank. No. Mm-hmm. Well, this is stupid. You were good for the money. You're going to get paid. We aren't changing, but we are not going to prepay all this stuff. That's why would anybody do it?
There was a time that you had to send one signature-sided American Express checks, that they wouldn't take personal checks. They would take American Express traveler's checks, single-signed. So when you bought American Express travel checks, you signed it there when you got the checks, when you gave the cash to American Express. You signed it once, and then you had to countersign it when you were wanting to make the transfer. And you would send travel checks over single-signed. So that you could validate your reservation with these people. I mean, this goes back to the hard key days of doors and stuff like that. I mean, this is how you worked, to make your reservations and so forth. And you had them in the safe. I mean, the safe at a hotel actually carried this cash as deposit values.
This is crazy. Thank God that Al Gore invented the internet, because otherwise, man.
Well, but even with that, I mean, when we did Neat Group, our whole model was to eliminate, because it was prepaid bookings, right? And the whole float of, I mean, for a lot of these guys, they're accepting the money on whatever, April 1st, the stay is in August, right? And you're going to pay the hotel 30 days after departure when you get your voucher back, right? Because there's this whole vouchering process that you needed that piece of paper as a receipt because you didn't get paid. And the tour operator got the breakage because like, well, you didn't invoice us. They go, well, we lost the voucher. It's like, that's like losing cash.
Too bad.
Buddy.
Too bad. So sad.
It's all ours now, right?
That was sitting in the safe at the hotel too. That was it. That was gold. That was a box of gold that you had in your safe.
Oh, absolutely.
You could redeem them.
You did not want somebody spilling coffee on that or anything. They were neat. One of our things was, you book this on Tuesday at 8 p.m. at night, whatever, 2 a.m. Central Time. That money is all yours, right? We thought the hotels would go. Not the airlines have all this settlement through ARC that happens every week. That's all taken care of. The car rental companies liked it. The hotels went, oh, we have no way to get the money to the properties. We're like, well, we'll give you the money, and you're going to have so much money, it doesn't matter, right? Yeah, we're running this on your own website. Just take it and go figure it out. They wouldn't do it because their ROI, they had to expend resources, technology resources, which were scarce, and there was no ROI for them. It was great ROI for the for the hotel owner, or cash flow for the hotel owner, did nothing for the brand. So the brands didn't fund it, and instead I had written up the business process for a virtual credit card number, right? And that was for the hotel in Mozambique. That banking, and how are you going to do this? Hey, can you take a MasterCard? Great, we'll get you your money. Now you're going to have to pay whatever you pay MasterCard, which we know is stupid because we already paid American Express the discount rate on the original purchase. So that was our fallback. That became the industry standard and is still getting pushed by all the OTAs, that, eNet for travel, for all these businesses of having this. It's insane, but it's completely hostile to the hotel owner. But that's how this stuff, still advanced deposit handling for that, or prepayments still has friction in it. Unnecessary friction.
One thing we are doing, and just to bring up the full circle of the conversation about getting the pre-deposit for offering you uniquely priced things, if you're willing to put a deposit down, we are also putting on top of that our best rate guarantee to it. Should our rate change between the time of your booking and the time of your arrival, we will honor it. So yes, you're putting us in a deposit and it's a non-refundable unless you give us a sad sub story of something that happened. But we're also saying, but we're also guaranteeing the rate, so you're not feeling like, oh great, I paid that, but now you're asking this and I can't get my money back. We make that a pre-combination point that says, look, you're doing a 30-day non-refundable, but you're getting a hell of a rate when we're guaranteeing that rate. That it will be.
And if you're upfront about it and say proactively, our rate went down, right? And you're going to do it, not that you have to go find it and catch us and report it within 24 hours and have them run a gauntlet. That's really smart.
That's what we're doing. We're actually, and we made that adjustment. We even do that as an incentive. We do it just to do it, just to make because that's
so they automatically can refund it.
We just change the rate before arrival. Yeah, but then we give it into when they arrive. That we give it back to them. We credit to
so
their
you get the credit card back, and you can refund the credit
card. Right. They still have to stay. We're not giving it back at the time we notify them. They after the completion of their stay, whatever the rate variation would be at their time of checkout is when we make the adjustment to their billing.
So here's what I would do, right? So if you know that Robert's coming and he's going to save $20 because the rate dropped, I would say I can either credit you $20 or you can exchange that for $30 in bucks.
Whatever. Exactly right. Yes. Yeah. And that's what I want to get to. I'm not there yet. I'm trying to get the hotel to buy into that belief of like, look, rather than giving hard cash back, give a tangible value back.
It's something that you actually have bigger margins in, because if you gave say $25 or $30 food and beverage, your margins are kind of probably mean that you're making more than you would have by giving them $20.
And the other offer possibility too is, and I haven't figured out how to do this in a way that's scalable, is to offer room upgrade as a guarantee to it. Like, hey, you know what? Your rate went down, but I can get you into a better room. It's a choice, not force them.
Yeah.
It depends on the configuration of the
hotel. Get the specs. Yeah.
But if you have a situation where, if you have a way where you have enough upgraded room inventory that is never sold out. I mean, with Four Seasons, we built a hotel that had 96 these great bay and a half corner rooms, and it was a quarter of the hotel's inventory. They were terrific rooms. Really stupid idea from a space utilization, construction return on investment. Sure. This was a failure, but for upgrades and things like that, you could guarantee people upgraded your rooms if they did certain things, and that was great. Hey, so, but it really depends on the hotel.
You want to do the
if you have constrained? I was just going to say, if you have constrained twin beds, double doubles or something like that, you open yourself up to a world of hurt
problems. You can't guarantee room type.
What was supposed to satisfy these guys turned into some massive dissatisfier.
That's always the thing, right? You always got to think it through the entire life cycle of the customer journey.
Please, what could go wrong? If you aren't asking what could go wrong and seriously thinking about it,
from the consumer's perspective, always from the consumer's perspective.
Which is the only one that really matters.
Right. It doesn't matter if it's a little bit more work on your night auditor or whoever it is, right? It's the consumer's the one that really counts at the end of the day.
Actually, one thing before the a particular chief financial officer for a major ski area group was thrilled that they had 16% take on their sending $100 and $50 live gift cards to their loyalty members. They go, hey, only 16% of the people are using them. It was like, that's not good. That's a bad bad. Because they put in constraints. You couldn't use it online, even though the strategy was, how do we get these people to book online instead of going to a kiosk with a person in it in the freezing cold when there's a line.
Why do people create more friction? Like they probably alienated people more by doing that promotion than if they hadn't done anything.
And you couldn't use it for season passes. It's like, I think you want to sell them a season pass. Give them the $50 because they spent $25,000 last year and you only gave them $100 or something. Maybe let it go against just ridiculous. Talk about gaps in strategy between marketing strategy and financial operational practices.
There's too much isolation in people making the policies there. They're not doing it across
is that under tech and finance, your item number 11? I'm sorry, I was writing the notes from our previous chat on the timeline. Is this the one we're talking about?
Equity taking over Switch? Oh, no, that was a completely different.
So there's not an article here.
Private equity taking over Switchfly. I thought that was just an interesting, loyalty tech. It was a packaging platform that has changed hands and gone through a number of turns. I thought the interesting one was Jonas Software rolls up hospitality tech group to compete against bigger. Jonas is buying a whole bunch of other stuff. Just all these little property management system, all this old stuff and cobbling it together, which is probably pretty smart. They've got a big user base, right? So
and we're familiar with all those clients. Leonardo, Springer Miller, MSI. And we work with both Springer Miller and MSI. So I can talk you offline about some insight I have into that whole strategy because it's very interesting.
So let's hit the rut row since we're at that time.
The rut row. You always hate to talk about firing, of layoffs of people, or I shouldn't say that, of hotel workers. But Japan's Henn Hotel fired half of its workforce, and that half was the robots they put in. So it was the T-Rex with the little bellman's cap and all that sort of stuff. Going back to Ed's comments on the chat bot, these things couldn't answer basic questions, and it was taking the staff longer to maintain the damn robots who weren't providing any sort of guest benefit or utility aside from I think, again, taking Ed's point on the Airstream stuff, some PR that's just sort of not going to go anywhere. But they've now gotten rid of half of their robots, reportedly keeping the half that actually contributed
to improve. So they had things like luggage robots that couldn't carry luggage, in front desk robots that couldn't answer simple questions. So
which is interesting because Yotel has had a luggage robot in their New York property. I don't know if that was the first one they did or if they'd done it in some of their others in Europe before, but you put it down, it grabs it, it picks it up, and it puts it into like a wall safe sort of thing and pulls it down. And you kind of go, okay, that makes sense. And you kind of go, there's a weight limit, there's a size limit, things like that.
There's parameters for sure.
And it's secure. And you kind of go, that might be more efficient than having a bellman do it and have these things get lost. Of course, if that arm breaks, I don't know if they have ladders or passkeys or whatever to try to get this.
And that was one of the things in this article they were saying about this Japanese hotel, that a lot of the staff members were having to work overtime to fix the broken machines. So it's clearly not an ideal situation. And this is what happens when people take an idea and run it to the nth degree before testing and iterating on it. If they started out with a couple of robots and doing it that way, they would have found more easily the ones that work and the ones that don't, and wouldn't be so disruptive. But you're right. This was they went big because it was a PR play, right? And it worked. They got a lot of notoriety. They probably have a lot of people go and stay there because of the PR that they gained from going all in on this robot concept. But
and they had
it's not ready for prime time in a lot of cases.
243 robots, right?
Right.
Which is that's a lot, right? So. Yeah, it's I know all these. I've experienced the one that what was it? Can't remember the hotel. I know it was a dual branded Starwood property. It was in a loft and something else that had the little robot that could go deliver things, and it was kind of going around the lobby and things like.
Oh yeah,
you can send stuff up, and you go.
Yeah, it takes 4 times longer than a person. But
right, and it only had
to have that.
And its payload was like something that was, I don't know, maybe a cubic
This
foot.
big, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can pick a box of chocolates up is all it can really do. Hey, I
Yeah.
put in a text.
It's gimmick. It's fun.
This is a cool tool that just came out on AppSumo, which is actually really fun because it solves a problem that Ed usually bitches about, about people trying to do it on their own. This is a neat
Airstream trailers? Oh, no.
right, yeah, Airstream trailers. This tool is, they say it's AI gen. I would say machine learning probably better as a better assessment of its tool set. But you can write content, and it'll actually go over and do a little bit of what Holly and her sales training does with her influencer stuff. It'll tell you the sentiment, the education level that you're writing at, the gender value, and the voice value. But the really neat part of it is, it'll do that. It'll also show your optimization, your keyword value in your content. This allows you to write content for web pages, but I've been using it for PR pieces really nicely. And the neat fun part is it has a neat little comp set tool function to it that you throw in websites that you're trying to compete with content generation wise or information wise or in your comp sets particular. And it will show you your relative value of content compared to what it's finding on those websites. So it's kind of
Wait, which one is this? Is this web
text tool? The web text tool.
Web text tool. That's
and
cool.
right now I put the link in for AppSumo that if you buy it through them, right now it's $49 lifetime. And you can stack it twice to do more keys to it, and you'll see the details in it when you read it. But I've been using it for PR writing, and it's pretty fun. I mean, I'm probably going to use it for web page content as well. But it does a really neat scorecard for it. But I like the tool on the comp set and what websites you're trying to look like and what your gender and your education level is.
Yeah, that's really smart. That's cool.
It's kind of a fun thing, and it's a real easy interface. I love easy interface. And it's a pretty neat tool. So just to throw that out to those who are listening.
Is it standalone or is it a plug-in for?
It's a standalone. You can do it as a plug-in to your site. You can do it as a plug-in to your site. So you run it through your site. WordPress, I hate Joomla, so I'll never say Joomla. But it has Joomla, Drupal. It has its interfaces.
Okay.
But it's a standalone. It's a tool value. So
and is this now AppSumo $49 lifetime instead of 180 euros a year? Really?
Wow, I'm an AppSumo addict, so I stacked it twice, so I have the extras on it. But
that's like 50% of your budget is, I think, AppSumo apps.
Probably more than
you've always got new words.
But yeah, going back to Holly and what she does with influencer training and so forth, she was teaching people how to write content on platforms like Word documents that you can see your word count, you can see your education level that you're writing to and so forth in some of the plugins that WordPress, not WordPress, but Word has. Well, this has that too, but it has a little bit more to it as well. So it's cool. Yeah. Anyway, I just want to throw that in there. I thought it was a cool tool. I've been playing with it. It's pretty neat. Yeah. Hey, I got the Robert approval scowl. Did you see that? Robert's going, that's a Robert approval scowl.
He didn't dismiss it out of hand.
Look, I got the curled fingered chin hole too. Holy jeez, I got the full-blown endorsement to this.
Now, you did the AppSumo link for visitor analytics, though. You gave a different link. What? Is that something else?
Oh, no. That's a feature. That's the link over to it is just brings you to AppSumo, and it just shows what they're featuring. You pick whatever you want to on it. Yeah. They're featuring different stuff. But
I see. Okay.
But the web text tool is the one that is on there if you're the one that we're talking about. So anyway, hey, we're past the 2-hour mark.
Yep.
I gotta tell you, honestly, thank you. I look forward to the show more about being able to talk through fun things than whether or not we'll post the stuff up in the chat and so forth. But it's nice just to go and talk and get stuff out of your head.
That's so weird because Stuart and I both dread this because you make us do it against our will. And
I think not as much as Ed dreads Twinkie Airstream. As a child,
there was a bad
something happened.
Airstream.
Somebody treated him bad that owned Airstream.
No, he just didn't take his meds this morning. That was the problem.
That might be true too. Yeah, that might be true. So if anybody wants to know more about you, Stuart, and your amazing podcast and Fuel Travel, where is it they can find you, sir?
So Fuel Travel, anywhere on the internet, fueltravel.com is our website. You can email us info@fueltravel. We've been getting a lot of good questions recently for the podcast. And if you have a question about hotel marketing or the hospitality industry, info@fueltravel.com is a good way to send that in, or Twitter @fueltravel. And then you can subscribe to the podcast from fueltravel.com/podcast.
Excellent. The best podcast for hospitality and market.
Full-time podcaster, part-time digital marketing agency.
I will say this: it's probably my favorite part of the week. Is the producing content like this and like the podcast. I do enjoy it a lot. I love my clients. Don't get me wrong.
Stuart tells us privately, when we aren't on the air, how he loathes working with clients, and all that.
Hey, anyone that knows me knows that I love to solve problems, and that's what it is with clients every day. It's solving problems.
So, Mr. Robert, if they want to know more about Rock Cheetah and your love of clients,
exactly. I love all my rockcheetah.com or at Robert K. Cole.
Excellent. And for this episode and all previous 181 other episodes, if you would like to listen back to our wonderful content and curated content that Robert provides to us, and that list and all that and the links and everything, you can go to hospitalitydigitalmarketing.com/live and look for show number 182. With that, gentlemen, thank you so much. Hopefully we'll be able to get together next week, 11:30 with you all. If not, we'll still have the show, but we hope that you can join. And and until then, bye everyone, and thank you for listening this week.
See you guys.